Hey guys, what's up? My name is Eric and I'm the Techy Agent, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Polar Vantage watches. Okay, so we got to do this. This has been a hard review for me to do because the Polar Vantage watch has been such a frustrating watch for me to review, to the extent that this review is going to be very different from most or all of the other reviews that I've done in the past, where I show you guys how this has performed in the gym for strength training, CrossFit, boot camp style exercises. I take this jogging, I take this cycling, I put it through a wide variety of exercises to show you guys how it performs in each of those contexts. Unfortunately, this watch has performed so mediocre at best in those specific contexts, or just plain lousy in most of those situations, that it didn't really, in my opinion, warrant the effort and time to go into a full review. So what I want to do in this review is just kind of on the front end tell you why I would not recommend this watch, either version of the Polar Vantage watch, why I personally do not recommend that you buy it. So first, let's go ahead and talk about the heart rate sensor accuracy. Now, this does pair with external heart rate sensors, and I did do that. I paired this with an external Bluetooth chest strap, and when it does that, it works flawlessly, right? Because it's pulling that heart rate data from the chest strap. But the built-in optical heart rate sensor is going to be an important factor. I mean, you are buying the watch in part because it should have an accurate heart rate sensor. So let's talk about that real briefly.
For steady state cardio, I don't have a ton of complaints, but I don't have a ton of compliments either. This basically provides what you would expect at a bare minimum from anything that has built-in GPS and heart rate tracking. So you're going to get the duration of your run, you're going to get the distance, you're going to get your heart rate information and calories, and then above and beyond that, you're also going to get your minimum and maximum beats per minute. You're going to get a fat burn percent, your average pace, your max pace, your average and max cadence, as well as your average and max energy expenditure in terms of wattage. Now, it should be noted that Garmin provides all of these metrics and more on watches that cost less. So that's something to take into consideration. You're getting a bare minimum in terms of metrics from the Polar Vantage. Now, you are getting accurate heart rate tracking from the Vantage for steady state cardio. So I do want to state that, but in terms of other metrics, you're not getting a lot. Now, in terms of this being a hiking or outdoors watch, this really does fall flat. You're not going to get a lot of the metrics that you would expect to get from, a designated GPS hiking watch. Even something like the Garmin Instinct is going to provide you with onboard mapping on the actual watch screen. You're not going to be able to see mapping information on the Polar Vantage unless you actually refer back to the application. So, for example, on the Garmin Instinct, on the watch face itself, you are going to get directional and navigational information. You don't get any of that on the Polar Vantage watches. You're only going to get the basic metrics, of distance, time elapsed, calories burned. But as you'll see here on the Garmin Instinct, you actually get heading and map information. Again, something that's cheaper than the Vantage, but provides more in terms of, what they're offering in terms of metrics and features. So that's something to take into consideration. If you're wanting to buy this for, its hiking capabilities, you're much better served buying something from the Garmin platform. Now, in terms of using this in the gym, this is where it really fell apart. For any sort of gym-based exercise, whether that's, strength training or whether that's CrossFit exercises or boot camp exercises, no matter what I did, the Garmin Vantage heart rate sensor just absolutely could not keep up. I felt like there was not a single moment, no matter how much time I gave it to catch up, there was not a single moment where it reflected what my actual heart rate was. And the reason I know that is because I was able to pair my Apple Watch with a Bluetooth chest strap, so I'm getting, perfect heart rate readings from my Apple Watch connected to the chest strap, and the heart rate data that was coming back on the Polar Vantage was always 20, 30, 40 beats under what the Apple Watch was coming back with. And so there was just not any moment at any point in working out in the gym where I felt that it reflected accurate data, and it just really did fall apart. And so if you're going to use this in a gym-based context, you're going to have to use a Bluetooth chest strap. The watch also is slow from the time when you press a button to when it opens up a menu. It will take it a solid 2 seconds. And then when you're swiping or scrolling through any sort of menu, you'll get these weird stutters, these awkward lags. And this is something that's actually been reported to me by many other users who have purchased the watch. And when you're talking about a touchscreen in 2018 from a large brand like Polar, it's really unacceptable that they would have any sort of screen stutter or lag issues at this point. Really, it needs to be snappy. It needs to be something that can be reliable. And at this point, the user interface is just very glitchy.
I also want to talk about the build quality and design. Now, this watch is certainly a quality design in terms of, the actual materials that they used. You could drop this watch on the ground, you could be rough with it, and it's not going to break. So in terms of just, a ruggedness, that's there. There certainly is a ruggedness. That being said, the watch is also kind of clunky and kind of bulky, and unnecessarily so, because you can go out there and find watches that do everything that this watch does, has screen sizes that are comparable, a user experience that is comparable, and is significantly lighter and significantly more compact. This watch feels like it's unnecessarily bulky.
Another thing that I noticed almost right away, and something that many other users have told me, is that the screen is really hard to read. Even in bright sunlight and just about virtually any lighting condition, you have to enable the backlight in order to read the screen because the screen is just way too dim.
The sleep tracking on this has just been totally subpar. It's the same sleep tracking that they've had since the Polar A360, which was released like 3 or 4 years ago, and then the Polar A370, which was at least 2 years ago. So we're not getting any sort of upgrade in terms of sleep tracking. Additionally, the step tracking on this has also been subpar. I've compared this with several other watches that are all kind of agreeing with each other, and I might log maybe 5,000 steps on those watches in a day, and then I look at the Polar Vantage watch and it's saying that I did 7,000 or 8,000 steps. So it's giving me additional credit. And I think that one of the reasons for that is a lot of these other watches have gotten better about not counting steps that aren't actually steps. So for example, when you're driving in a car, you're kind of bouncing along the road, there's some road movement, and these other watches have learned to differentiate between an actual step and road movement. But the Polar Vantage watch doesn't seem to have that ability. As I'm driving in my car, I'm noticing that after a few minutes of driving, when I get out, it might have logged 100 or even 200 steps. So that's going to be problematic for those of you who are wanting to get accurate calorie counting based on, the number of steps that you've taken for the day. So the step tracking on this just isn't accurate, and then therefore the all-day distance that it's going to be giving you credit for is also going to be affected by that, because it's going to be giving you credit for steps you didn't take and therefore giving you credit for distance you didn't actually walk, and so those metrics become kind of worthless. So the all-day features on this in terms of sleep tracking, step counting, distance, and then calories are all thrown off because the sensors on this just aren't up to par with modern standards. And so you can't really rely on this to give you an accurate picture of your all-day health activities. The other thing is the price point. Both of these watches are pretty expensive. The watch that I tested was over $500 once I was all done and said, and that's a lot of money. And there are other watches out there on the market that do just as much, if not more, with more accuracy, that are significantly cheaper.
So for those reasons, I cannot recommend the Polar Vantage M or the Vantage B, and I do have a list in the description below where you can check out other watches that I do recommend. Hey guys, thanks for watching. My name is Eric and I'm the Techy Agent. We'll catch you next time.